And also, if you put anything in the chat, put that in the chat, but we'll respond to those questions also at the end of the presentation. So again, just appreciate everybody's time and attention and participating today. But at this point, I'm going to turn it over for the next phase of the presentation to Shayna. Thank you, Shayna.
Yep. Everybody can still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, fabulous. I just wanted to make sure because I hit the record button. So to mirror some of the information that Jen went over today, we're going to be going over what is Workforce Manager, also referred to as ADP MyWork. And like Jen said, this is really what houses employee time and attendance. So this is equivalent to timekeeping, as you know, in Kronos. This will be where you will view your employees' time cards and verify their hours worked. There is mobile functionality, but we're going to primarily in the beginning today review the desktop version. So accessing Workforce Manager on the desktop is very easy. You're first going to navigate to Workforce Now. We're currently working with Prelude. They're going to be pushing out a shortcut on all of the Diakon computers, much like we have today with Kronos. But it is a website, so you can access it via the website that's in this PowerPoint, and we'll get this out to everybody. Once you log into Workforce Now, you're going to locate the My Team tab on the top of your dashboard. And then you're going to locate the Workforce Management dashboard. And when you log in, it's going to look a little bit like the snip here on this slide. Then I also want to mention that Workforce Now and Workforce Manager are single sign-on. So that means your username and your password doesn't fluctuate between the two applications. Once you log into Workforce Manager, you'll want to locate your employee time cards. So you'll locate the Manage Time Cards tile from your landing page. And you'll click the arrow, and that's going to lead you then to your direct report time cards. The other thing I always like to point out regarding this tile is that you can change what pay period you'd like to look at right from that tile. You're locating then your employee direct report time cards will appear, and those will appear unless you have access to other hierarchies and or hyperfines. So for example, you can use the agency employee only hyperfine to view only agency employees. You can use the manager's employees hyperfine to view just your direct reports. You can use the all home hyperfine to view all of the employees for which you have access to. And then you can use the manager's report to hierarchy hyperfine if you are a second level manager and you wish to review your team's direct reports as well. And then next, I'm going to pass it over to Stephanie and Darla. They're going to talk a little bit about the data view library.
Good afternoon, everyone. The data view library in ADP is basically where the reports are housed. When you're again in your dashboard, there's going to be these three little lines up in the upper left-hand side of your screen. You're going to click on those and you'll have a multitude of different drop-down options. But in this particular instance, we want you to take the data view and reports and then click on your data view library. In there, we've created a report that for those of you that are familiar with the Genie tool in Kronos, we labeled it what's called a manager pay period review report. And in there, you're going to see your hours, OT, mileage, etc. So if you want to go to the next slide, I'll give them a view of what that looks like. So it kind of looks a lot like the Genie tool for those of you that like to review your employees' time cards in a mass amount. And you can see at the top, we have different headers to explain your hours, add comp, etc. we will eventually be adding probably a couple more filters for those of you in the senior living who like to see late in and early out function. We're just gonna have to wait a little bit on that, but we can modify this for you guys and move it around a little bit if anyone requests a different view. But for the most part, we tried to mirror what the Genie tool currently shows in UKG. So when you're in there, at the very top, you basically will see your full list of all your employees. And at a high level, review, you can just kind of go right across the board, see if everything looks reasonable. Everything looks good on your end, then you basically would click that little box at the top. It would select all of your employees for the period. If you needed to go look at someone, we'll show you again, where to do that later. But this is basically just a high level review of all your employees, much similar to the Genie tool in UKG. So that's just for the review. And then if you're going to be looking at your PTO, again, this is another area in the data view library. You're going to select from the main menu again, data view reports, and then the requested time off. And in there, you can basically go through, change your periods, much like the other screen Shana showed you, and basically look to see what PTO is requested there for all your staff. One feature that I think we're going to find useful, and I can see us probably even using it on our payroll side, is that we have this alert option or a notice option. And this can be customized for you to send to all your staff, or if you just want 1 or 2 employees. It'd be great to use if you're in the middle of reviewing, like that prior screen I showed where you're in the data view library and you notice John Smith never put any hours in. Here you can go ahead and say create a notice. You can send a little message that'll go directly to John Smith saying, hey, please complete your time card. So I think this will be a great tool to use, whether one-on-one or just in a mass announcement. Again, I can see payroll and HR probably using this from time to time for certain things that come up. But it's very, very simple, and it should be pretty user-friendly for anybody that wants to use this new feature. So much like we do now in Kronos, when you're on the employee's time cards, this is a typical view of a time card where you can go in, review it in its entirety, and then go ahead and just click the approve button at the top. Super, super simple. This, of course, would be the ideal way to do it, that you could see each employee's detail, but understandably, we can go back to reconciling the time cards like we showed before, clicking those 3 buttons, go to your data view library. Once you're in there, you're going to pull up your staff, and there's just a little snip there, but basically that full report will come to you again. And again, just like we showed you before, you can select everybody's names, click on that approve button. It'll give you the options to approve or unapprove. And in this case, you can do either or function here. You can do that from the time card of the employee, or you can do that right here from this Genie tool. Again, can be for all of them, or you can just select specific ones that you're satisfied with and you want to proceed with. And removing approval, same way. On here, it's grayed out. It will not be grayed out for you, but much like the level of security we have in UKG, this was a test employee, so employees cannot remove your approval. Obviously, that's a feature we wanted to keep, but you as a supervisor, if you approve them and then realized, oh my goodness, I need to change this from hours work to PTO, you can remove your approval and make the edits as you need. And that'll be doable up until we close the cards at 12 noon on our Mondays.
Next, we'll jump in and talk about transfers on the time card as well as transfers on the time clock. So much like Kronos today, employees with 2 or more positions conduct job transfers on the time clock, or the supervisor or scheduler completes the transfer on the time card. We also utilize those transfers when we are picking up the standard nursing incentive, which you know as the Y rate for my senior living group. And supervisors complete transfers on the time card when they're looking to reallocate labor dollars. So this functionality will remain the same in ADP, but there'll be a few minor tweaks that I'm going to review in the next couple slides. First, I have some information on completing a transfer at the time clock for employees that have more than one position that has a different rate of pay associated with it. You're going to see on the ADP time clock, there is now a business structured transfer soft key, which is indicated on the PowerPoint. So the employee is going to select that business structure transfer when they are clocking in or out into a secondary position. Also wanted to mention, we do want to make sure employees are paid appropriately. So if there is an employee that runs into an issue and they're not able to transfer at the time clock or they miss a punch, we're still going to have those time card exception forms available. Transfers on the time card, we're going to talk a little bit about a new field called a labor category. Labor categories in ADP house the standard nursing incentive, the weekend program rates, and more. And so what I like to say is goodbye Y rate and hello labor categories. So we're going to talk about those a little bit more. This is a very brief overview of transfers on the time card. So I'll be sending out detailed instructions to you all that complete those transfers. So rest assured about that. But when you're transferring an employee into a secondary position, you're going to be navigating through what's called the business structure. This is essentially the organizational map for the organization. You're navigating to find the correct location, what we know as the division, department, unit, and job title. And you're going to apply that, and you're going to make sure that that transfer then appears on the time card. You'll use the labor category if you're looking to transition or transfer somebody into the senior living approved incentive, maybe the weekend program, or maybe they're functioning as a preceptor. So you'll transfer them into their primary position, and then you're going to select add the labor category. Essentially, the labor category houses those additional dollars that get tacked on top of the employee's base rate of pay. So some important reminders regarding time card transfers. As I mentioned, I'm going to send out instructions to everybody. But what's really important is that job transfers in ADP are very job title specific, which is a little bit different than how they're handled currently in Kronos. So we'll walk through an example together. In this example, Susie is a personal care aide and she has a nursing assistant certification. She works a shift. She's eligible for the standard nursing incentive. So we would complete a job transfer to pick up that Y rate, which is now housed as a labor category. When the transfer is done, the supervisor or scheduler must be very careful to pick up the exact job title that Susie holds. So when you look at the thread here, so this snapshot on the slide, you're going to see there's a variety of different job titles to select from. Susie, though, is a personal care aide with nurse aide certification. She's not a personal care aide, and she's not a personal care aide with NA precept. So it's just very particular. In order to make sure that the employee is paid appropriately, they must be transferred into their exact position title. Lastly, regarding labor categories, we now have a labor category for our agency employees that work for more than one agency. You'll notice on the time clock that we now have an agency labor category soft key available as outlined here in the PowerPoint. The agency employee will clock in and out at the ADP time clock as normal, but they're able to transfer into a different agency by using the agency labor category soft key. And I have a screenshot here as well, just so you can see all the different agencies that are located within there. I just want to reiterate, though, this is only needed for individuals that work for more than one agency. For an agency team member that works for one agency, they're simply going to clock in and clock out as normal.
Now we're going to go back to the time cards and discuss a little bit about adding some different coding. Probably the one main feature that's going to look a little different to all of you is what's called Project View. This is going to look a little different for the time card for those staff that are DCFCM, ministry support, and then our salary exempt and salary non-exempt senior living folks. So you're going to see 1 week at a time. So again, a little different than we're used to. And as you can see, the days are across the top with just these blocks. If one of your staff had, hours worked in there, you'd see that. But let's say they forgot to add mileage, you need to do that for them. At the top, you click that little plus sign that says add new. Up will open up this little box that will allow you to choose a pay code. There will be multiple pay codes in there based on your level. They should be in alphabetical order. You're going to pick the mileage reimbursement. And when you click apply, it'll then pop up on your card, and you will enter the miles they drove. Same as we do now. You're just entering 25 miles. It'll calculate at the new rate of 67 cents a mile. If you do have to add for multiple days, you can just go right across the card there, because now that little extra line has been created and you can go ahead and add it for other days. So again, it's a tad different than what we're used to seeing now. And you have to toggle between those little arrows that say previous and next. In this case, we'd hit the next button and then we would see the second week of the pay period. So again, a little different than we're used to seeing now, but that's only for our project use staff. Our hourly and timestamp view is very, very similar to what we're used to now. Probably the only difference is now the pay code is further to the right side of your screen, as opposed to we always added it on the left. So that's a little bit of a different feature. But again, when you click in that pay code box, it'll drop down in alpha order all the pay codes to select. You enter your amount in there and you hit save. And one thing I just want to kind of remind everyone of is at the bottom of all of your time cards, similar to in Kronos, there's those two little lines and an arrow. When you click on that, it'll expand a totals box for you. So just something to always keep in mind, that's a nice little feature that that we have there for you to show your totals. I don't think we actually did a screenshot of that. I just wanted to share that. Additional compensation is going to be the exact same way. This is going to pay out in dollars just like we do now. So you're going to add the pay code. This is a timestamp view, hourly and timestamp view. You're going to add it on the applicable day, and then you're going to hit save to make sure you pay your employees their ad comp. For the project view, again, you're going to have to hit that little add new button at the top. A little box will pop up. You'll select your additional compensation code, and then you can hit apply. Oh, and also one other little point, I'm sorry, you do have the option to do a transfer in there too, which obviously Shana just touched on. So if you do need to put those dollars to another business unit, there is the option to do that in that little box as well. For PTO, you're going to see PTO requests that your employees are going to push through to you in a couple areas. Probably the easiest one is when you log into your workforce manager screen, you're going to have this little alert bell. It's going to be on the top right-hand corner of your dashboard. And it'll let you know, hey, you have a couple alerts in here. When you click on that, it's going to bring up this little box saying, hey, Stephanie wants to request this day off. This is a simple, easy, if you're like, oh yeah, she talked to me about it, I'm going to approve this, I'll go ahead and approve it. Obviously, if you want to refuse it, you can certainly refuse it. The other feature is when you're on your dashboard, you're going to see several different boxes come up, and there's a My Notifications tile. In there, you'll see employee requests. This will bring up the same information, but a little bit more detail. So maybe you do want to deny it or refuse it. This will give you the option to put a comment in there. It'll also allow you to kind of look at the history and see, well, when did they request this time off, and any other details surrounding the PTO. So again, same functions in either route you take, but this one does give you a little bit more details.
I'm going to jump in and just share a few reminders related to PTO information. So all available accrued PTO and extended leave balances will be extracted from Kronos, and they're going to be imported into ADP. However, if there was a PTO request that was submitted and approved on or after that transition date, so March 24th, that will not be imported into ADP. So those requests are going to need to be resubmitted once we are officially in ADP. And you can reach out to your local HR representative and they'll be able to assist you in identifying who those impacted employees are. The other really important note is that we do need a grace period to get those balances loaded into ADP. We have to close out payroll and make sure there's no corrections that are needed before we can import the balance. And we really just want to make sure the balance is accurate. So that's why we need to wait until payroll is closed out. As we mentioned a little bit earlier, and I know Jen started off the conversation, ADP is mobile friendly, which is different than Kronos today. So this means employees can request time off, they can report their hours worked, and you all can approve time cards more conveniently by accessing the mobile app. We focused a lot today talking about the desktop view, and we really encourage getting comfortable with the desktop view before playing around with the app. But again, everything is single sign-on. So your sign-on to get into the app is the same as your sign-on to get into Workforce Now and to toggle to Workforce Manager. Some additional reminders and helpful hints. So the clocking experience remains the same as Kronos for our hourly non-exempt team members throughout the organization in senior living and HUD. Biometric enrollment is still required for all of those senior living team members, HUD members, as well as our agency staff. They all need to be enrolled biometrically with the finger swipe. I know all of our campuses are actively working on that, so thank you so much for being proactive with that initiative. Also wanted to highlight, we've ordered the same number of clocks, so the same available clocks will be available at our campuses, in addition to ordering a time clock for all of our HUD locations for our hourly HUD team members. In terms of the transition and go live, so as you all can see, there's one clock available at our senior living campuses, and that's the clock you should be using now to get individuals enrolled in the time clocks. And then on Monday, March 25th, Rick and his team will be working on installing the other clocks. So there is going to be a window of time, probably 24 to 48 hours, where there is only one clock available for staff to clock in and out at till those other clocks are installed. That being said, our night shift team members, so those individuals coming into work at 11 p.m. on Saturday, March 23rd, they should begin to use the ADP time clock. And then I just have a breakdown here on this slide on where those one clocks are located at the senior living campuses. I don't have anything mentioned in here about HUD, but I did want to mention that Rick and his team are also working on getting those HUD clocks set up at those programs.
Thanks, Shayna. So just have a couple other items of things that as managers, we're going to be looking for you to do over the next, once we're kind of into the system and live. Just to reiterate, the beginning of the very first pay period that we will be in ADP begins on March 24th. So that'll be the first time that the first pay period that we're going to be looking for you as managers to start using ADP from a time and attendance perspective. As you get set up yourself, you all should have received a registration code to get set up into ADP. You certainly before March 24th can get in there and kind of start looking around. We encourage you to do that. Right now, you do not have access. Even if you go in and log in with your registration code, you're not going to see time and attendance yet. We have that turned off at this point, and it probably will be turned back on, so that you should begin to start seeing that probably early next week. But again, there won't really be anything in there, but certainly encourage you to go in and start kind of tooling around in there and checking things out. Once we are in the pay period of March 24th, what I would encourage all of you, particularly individuals who have hourly staff that might be recording time through a time clock, that you go in and start monitoring and making sure that things are flowing onto the time cards as expected, that you see the list of your direct reports, and please report anything that seems amiss. We certainly want to learn of that information and be able to troubleshoot as quickly as possible. What we want to avoid is come payroll Monday for that first pay period that we're in ADP. That should not be the first time you're going into the new system, because if there is a problem, it's certainly going to be very difficult to troubleshoot those and also process payroll. So we don't want any delays in processing payroll. If you have special things to do on a time card, adding mileage, adding additional compensation, doing a job transfer for an employee, again, try not to wait till the last minute. Try to do that as the days progress throughout the pay period, so that you can be on top of that. And again, if you have any trouble taking action the way you want to, please let us know. We're here to help you, here to troubleshoot, and certainly want to be as proactive as possible and not waiting till the end of the pay period. I know I mentioned the registration code. Please encourage and talk to your staff to make sure that they are getting themselves set up. We've received some feedback, so we know some people are doing that, but definitely want to encourage everyone to get registered, particularly for the staff that will be completing a time card in Project View, as Darla mentioned. They will need to be registered and be able to access at least on the desktop in order to complete their own time card. So it's really important for those individuals to be registered prior to that March 24th date. Also, next training session. So you're all participating in this session as a manager on how to approve time cards, how to add things to other people's time cards, but want to encourage all of you to attend the next sessions that are coming up related to employee training. So this afternoon at 3 o'clock, we have a training that's going to be for everybody that will see a Project View time card. So that is everybody in the organization that's salaried exempt or salary non-exempt. It is all DCFCM and ministry support individuals, and then salaried exempt senior living and salaried exempt HUD team members. So that will be the group that should be on the training at 3 o'clock. As managers, you yourself have to complete your own time card. So I encourage you to be part of that training as well at 3 o'clock. And then the training tomorrow afternoon is specifically for our hourly non-exempt employees that complete their time at a time clock. So that will be the group that will be trained tomorrow. If you are a manager of somebody that does complete their time at a time clock, I encourage you to also participate in that training, because I think it's important for you to hear the direction and education we're providing to those team members as well. So our pay period that goes live in ADP is March 24th. Our very first payroll Monday will be April 8th. Encourage everybody to have all of their time approvals done by that Monday morning. Payroll does need to be completed after noon that day. So it's really important that we stick to that schedule. This will be the first payroll that we're officially processing in the system. And so I think we want to also provide our payroll team some time in the event that there's any sort of hiccup or anything that they need to evaluate. So we certainly want to give everybody enough time to handle the things that they need to handle, but still process payroll timely. If again, I can't reiterate this enough, if you run into any challenges in the presentation, we have both the payroll hotline as well as the HR Central hotline email address. Please reach out to us. Certainly reach out to your local HR manager as well. They can be a support and a resource through the process. I talked already about the next training. So today at 3 o'clock and then tomorrow afternoon. And then just a few reminders, particularly the first one is for senior living. For those folks that use a time clock, we still have the 7-minute rule in place. And meal breaks should be taken at those 30-minute intervals, and just reference kind of where we can find some of our policies. So we wanted to provide that information to you as well. This is just the start of ADP. ADP has a breadth of functionality that we haven't even evaluated yet. Our focus was to get to a point that we could get all of our employee data into the system and be able to process payroll, approve time cards, and all of those things. But there will be some next steps. So just a little bit about what's next with ADP. On the senior living services side, we'll be focusing on the next step, which would be advanced scheduler, and having a enhanced scheduling product within ADP to help our senior living team members schedule both our managers to manage the schedule, but also our employees to be able to view their schedules on a mobile device or a desktop. So there's some additional enhancements that we didn't necessarily have within Kronos. Performance management. I think we're all familiar with our current evaluation process. It is maybe one step above paper at this point. So we definitely want to get to a point where it is a much more efficient process for our managers and be connected within the system. It gives us greater functionality and ease to complete those performance evaluations. So that will also be a next step. And then the other piece that ADP offers is the ability to communicate with our team members. So that'll be an additional piece that we'll be exploring, ways to communicate out to the whole Diakon team or to specific groups within Diakon. So that'll be another piece that we'll be working on in the future. And I'm going to pause there and just, if you want to put a question in the chat, we'll open up chat, as well as if you'd like to let us know what questions you have. You can certainly take yourself off of mute. So I'll pause here for any questions. Shayna, do you want to, I think Michelle, you had sent an email about or a chat about the registration codes.
Yep, so the personal registration codes were sent out yesterday in the late afternoon, and they would have been sent to any employee that has an email address on file. So we pulled over email addresses that were available in Kronos into ADP. So that is where the registration code would have went. If you did not receive a registration code, or you have a team member that did not receive a registration code, your local HR representative should be able to assist, and they can provide you with that registration code.
Thank you. I will embarrassingly say that I thought it was spam because it kind of looks like that when it comes through, and I deleted it. So I was kind of freaking out when you said it came in. So I just went and I found it. But I think that's helpful to know. I don't know if I'm the only person that looks through so many emails and just click because it looks like spam. So I will send out an email to make sure that people find it and appropriately register, and that no one else does what I did.
No, Michelle, thank you. That's a good point. Thank you.
So I thought the same thing, and then I realized I had the same email in my personal email and my work email. I was like, oh, let me maybe look at this a little deeper. But I had the same thought. So yeah.
Darla or Stephanie, do you want to take Chris's question about jury duty or bereavement time?
Yes, I can do that, Chris. It's going to be the same as we showed you for like mileage and additional compensation. They'll all be available in the drop down for you in alpha order. And we did actually, so Kronos, we had funeral. We did update that to bereavement. It just makes more sense. So that is one tiny little change we made.
Any other questions?
Hey, Jen, I had a quick question. This is Jason. And maybe I just couldn't tell because I'm on my phone, like with the drop down menus. Most of my staff, like if they're working for another, category, they add a row in that same day. Is that what this is going to do when you go to those drop downs? Will it add a row so that they can write different codes in there, like mileage, or if it's a different job category or labor transfer or something like that?
I can take that, Shayna. So Jason, it's going, yeah, so people that are in the hourly timestamp view, it'll be pretty much mirror how Kronos looks now. So they'll still be able to add, a line and put in the compensation. And if they need multiple, they can add another line. The project view is the one that's going to be a tad different. And those people with the project view have to click on that plus sign at the top that says add new. Then that will in fact create another line or another row, there on the time card. And then they can add multiple. And as far as if they have to put it into another, category, that would be the transfer button to select where they need to go.
Yeah, so the row would be there, and then they would hit transfer in that row, and then they'd be able to do it from that row.
Right. So the timestamp view will be very similar. The project view, it'll just bring up that little box. So it's just a little bit of a different feature there.
Yeah, I'll have to play around with that project view and figure
Yeah,
out
sure.
whether I'm
Sir,
going to use that or whether I'm just going to go directly to the people's time sheet.
we're anticipating questions, so certainly reach out and we'll walk you through it.
Perfect. Thank you, Darla.
You're welcome.
Wendy had a question about whether or not we would be sending out the instructions from today's training. And yes, we will be sending the PowerPoint out, as well as Shayna mentioned, particularly for the senior living group, those various labor category transfers and job transfers. Shayna's put together much more detailed instructions than we had in the PowerPoint. So we'll be sending those out as well so that you have those. When it's like that first time you need to enter one of those, we'll have step-by-step instructions for you. Michelle, you asked when Prelude was adding this to our computer. Shayna, I'll probably maybe ask for you to comment about that piece.
Yep, I opened up a ticket yesterday for them to push it out to the desktop. So I'm hoping sooner than later, but from what I understand, it doesn't take very long for them to do that. So as soon as I know, I'll make sure that that's communicated. I also just wanted to jump back to Wendy's question. So depending on the size of the recording, we're going to need to post the recording on the ADP updates website. That's in part why the recordings from last week have not been sent out to everybody yet, because there are limits to how large the files are that can be sent via email. So working with Melissa Kindle on that, we will make sure that the materials are available then on that ADP updates website. So just appreciate your patience with that, but we will make sure you have the information.
Any other questions? I think the team that's been working on ADP, we recognize that there is value to having access to it and begin to play around and see it for yourself. So we recognize that you're going to need time to do that once you're able to get into the system. And we know that that will generate questions, and that's absolutely fine. Please reach out. We're here to help and support you through the transition and process. So just keep us posted, and really encourage everybody, once you're able to get in, look around. If there's anything that isn't there that you expect to see, please let us know because we certainly want to troubleshoot those issues. All right. Again, there may be things you think of after the presentation's over. Please feel free to reach out, either the payroll hotline or HR Central. And we will try to respond as quickly as we can. Encouraging everyone to get on that 3 o'clock training from an employee perspective, and just appreciate everybody's time today and your support of the transition and supporting your team as they also experience the transition to ADP. So just thank you all very much. I hope you have a good rest of the day and hopefully see you all at the 3 o'clock session. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.